Cadet,
we're live.
yes, speaking.
Hello, it is live actually right now.
There's gonna be a lot of Binod today.
DJ that started.
Yep, we're live. Gonna be a lot of Binod today.
Yeah.
Yeah, आज तो
Hello, everyone.
विनोद ही विनोद होने वाला
Okay. Hello. Am I audible?
Ah, you are
है.
audible.
Yes.
Okay. So a very happy Independence Day to all. This auspicious Independence Day, we Rotaract Club of Nitrkl, in collaboration with the official aero modeling club Udaan, present you and interact with top that Mr. Tapesh Kumar, an esteemed pilot with AirAsia, YouTuber, social media influencer, traveler, photographer, and before we move on to our today's awesome session, let me take a moment to introduce our club Rotaract Nitrkl to you all. It is a philanthropist organization completely governed by a student executive body under the umbrella of Rotary International. We organize charity events and donation galas, social upliftment and awareness programs, and we go with our motto, service above self. So now, without much delay, I invite Tapesh sir to enlighten us with his enriching experience. So, over to you, sir. Just
All
to
right.
begin, sir, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you this question. How did the
Uh-huh.
career in aviation industry occur to you, sir? It will be great if you
Career
could
in
introduce
aviation.
us and go on with the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. So first of all, hello everyone. A very happy Independence Day to all of you and everyone who's watching. Uh, my name is Tapesh Kumar, as I hope all of you know, and I am currently, like Astu said, I'm currently a captain with AirAsia on the Airbus A320. Earlier, I was with Jet Airways, also flying as a captain on the Boeing 737. I've been flying for about nine odd years now, 9-10 years almost in aviation, at least about 10 years, and as far as the aviation thing goes, it all started off back in 2011. So in 2011, like things started to pick up because I finished my class 12th in 2010, and since then I like piloting was always never the first choice. I always wanted to be a professional footballer. So that used to be like the primary thing for me. However, sometime in 2011, I realized that engineering and getting onto that side of things, it wasn't exactly my personal thing. I realized कि engineering मेरे से personally I would not be very happy doing it. I could have done it, I could have studied, but I realized it's not my thing. So my dad was with Jet. He had been with Jet for about 25 years. So I'd always, grown up amongst pilots. I always knew, always interacted with a lot of them. But it was never a primary option. Being a footballer, like I said, was the primary thing. But you know how India is, you know how parents are and how the society is. They won't let you do something which is not very common. So football खेलना तो it was extremely like उस time पे especially back in 2010 football in India was not big at all. So this just wouldn't work out. So as a result, told my parents that football तो अब option है नहीं. So let me just be a pilot. And thankfully, my parents supported me. They also did their level best. They worked pretty hard, and they got me here to where I am. I also worked hard, and I'll tell you the whole story in detail a little later on. But that's the basic of how I started off as a pilot. And you guys here? Are you guys here? Yes, you are.
So yeah,
Sir, would you
DJ,
like to
please
present
continue.
something on your screen?
Sorry, what?
Would you like to present your screen? Like you want to share something?
All right, I'll start off with that. Okay, so first, that was just a brief introduction about me. And for the rest of the stuff, maybe I'll pick it up later on. on about myself. First, I just want to share with you guys a small presentation. This presentation is something which I actually made for one of our batches in VYA. So I have this academy where we teach pilots. So I had this presentation which tells me, which will tell you all the basics of how to become a pilot. Like it should be helpful to anyone who's looking at becoming a pilot. So uh, I'll just share my screen and you all can have a look and I'll just take you through it. So I hope you all can see the screen now, or maybe I think you guys will have to allow it or something.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
we can see.
great. All right. So this is just the very basics of how to become a pilot in India or abroad. So anyone who's interested in knowing how to take this forward in their own life, you can just go through this. I'll tell you all case में क्या क्या दिया हुआ है. So and you'll also find a lot of my photos. So don't mind. ठीक है. मैंने अपनी photos बहुत सारे डाल रखे हैं. All right. So first of all, pilots, as I'm sure all of you know, I'm talking about commercial pilots here. All right, we're not talking about Air Force pilots because that's a totally different ball game. That's a totally different way of doing things. We're talking about here commercial pilots. We fly for airlines or charters or private companies or some private jets. We're talking about that part. So basically, we're civilians. We're not military pilots. So civilian pilots, we can either fly for, like I said, commercial airlines, or you can also fly for commercial airlines. There's also a chance that you can also get into military. You can get into Coast Guard, and you can also get into even the Air Force. Even the Air Force hires CPL holders. So the thing that allows you to fly as a commercial pilot is called Commercial Pilot License, CPL. And this CPL is basically, there are a few ways to get it. Before we get to that, first of all, what is good about being a pilot? Well, I personally think these are my own very personal options of why I became a pilot. First of all, is the views are amazing. Like what you see outside that cockpit window is just beautiful. Like you can see in the photo on the left hand side, that was clicked somewhere, sometime during our climb in the evening. The views that you get to see, the colors, the sunrises, the sunsets, the millions of stars that you see at night, because the skies are absolutely clear. So those views it's just beautiful. The thing with a normal 9 to 5 job is that your office space is fixed, right? It's like a cubicle or you have a desk where you work on. Being a pilot, your office space is continuously shifting, you're continuously moving in your office space, and the views are continuously changing. Plus, every day you're doing something different. Every flight that you operate, every landing that you do, every takeoff that you do, it's all different from the one that you did the last time, because it's all just very different on each and every day. So that was one thing. The other thing is the salaries. The salaries are extremely nice. They're like, for especially when you're young, when you're like just out of your college, like most of you guys, or when you're just out of school, and getting paid about 2.5 lakh rupees a month as your starting salary. That is, if you ask me, pretty good. There are very few careers or career choices which will give you that much salary just at your starting of the career. So that's the other one. The third is the traveling. First of all your tickets are free. So you, your girlfriend, your wife, not at the same time, or your parents or your family members, all of you get free tickets. So you guys can, like, it's absolutely free. For example, I'll just give you a small example. I traveled from Delhi to Berlin, right? No, sorry, I traveled from Bangalore to Berlin. So I went from Bangalore to Delhi, Delhi to Brussels, Brussels to Berlin, and then all the way back to Bangalore. And you will not believe how much this whole trip costed me in terms of airline tickets. It was somewhere close to about like 14 or 15,000 rupees, all the way to Berlin and back to Bangalore. So I took like 8 flights, 6 flights, and those 6 flights costed me like 15,000 bucks, which is just the taxes basically. You just pay the taxes. So your tickets are absolutely very either very cheap or they're absolutely free. Plus, you as a pilot, the airline will send you on something known as layovers. Layovers means basically you fly to a destination and then you stay the night there. You stay for 24 hours and then the next day or the next night you come back to your initial your base. So that in those 24 hours, you have all the chances in the world to go around, roam in the city, explore new places. If you fly for a big international airline, then literally you end up traveling the whole world while the airline pays for it. The airline gives you a very nice hotel, you get the transport, you get a car, everything is there. And those free tickets are they are actually very nice. And the last thing which I personally feel is the respect and the admiration that you get. Normally, if I see doctors, engineers, all of these are very respectable jobs. But the thing with them is nothing against engineers, because I know a lot of you here are engineers. But the thing is that it's not very rare. In India, every month you have on in okay, let's take it for every year. Every year we produce somewhere close to about 700, 600 pilots in 1 year in India. And engineering colleges में I believe इतने तो एक दो तीन class में आ जाते होंगे, I guess. Like the numbers in terms of pilots are very, very small. Total number of airline pilots in India on as a whole, all of it, total is somewhere close to just about 8,000 who are like actually flying right now for an airline. So as you can see, the numbers are extremely small, and because of that small numbers, the job is rare. So as a result, when you tell someone ki, yeah, listen, I'm a pilot, then people tend to be like, oh yeah, pilot hai. Oh my god, that's a big thing. Honestly, we personally don't feel anything that way, but to someone else, as a third person who's not in aviation, that person will personally feel ki, ha yaar, this is something rare. So these were the reasons why I personally chose to become a pilot. And so now let me just clear up a few doubts. I keep on telling these things to, like, I get these questions on a daily basis. See, what are the requirements and what all do I need to do? How do I get in? So I'll just go through all of this. Also, by the way, just a shout out to Prachi, who is here. Hello, Prachi. All right. So in 12th, you guys need to have maths and physics. Now, this is as per the old apna purane wala education system. Apparently, the new one is coming in, and as and when that comes in, so we'll have to see what are the changes which come in. But as of now, this is what is applicable. You need to have 12th pass with maths and physics. Your marks don't matter. You just have to be 12th pass. That's it, right? You don't have to be a topper or something. Even if you get just 33%, you're good enough. You're eligible to be a pilot. But maths and physics are required. And yeah, and what else? Okay, so in case you guys did not have maths and physics, I'm sure the engineers, all of you would have maths and physics in class 12th. But for those of you who did not have maths and physics in 12th, you guys can always clear your exams from NIOS or any open university which is recognized. So most commonly people go to NIOS. You only have to give maths and physics. That's it, not the whole 12th again. Just these two exams. So basically, you'll have two certificates for your class 12th. And okay, after that, should I get a degree first? I personally do not recommend it. Although I know you guys, being engineers, you must have done your degrees. You're doing it right now. But if the best possible time is to do it after your class 12th. However, if you come in here after your engineering, absolutely not a problem. Like, you will only end up doing better, because you would have a more developed brain, you would have more understanding of things, plus you would be a little more mature, and you would have seen life. So as a result, even if you come in after your engineering degree or after any degree, it's still not a bad idea. It's absolutely same. Plus now you have a backup of sorts. So just in case, touch wood, if something goes wrong, then you can always switch back to your engineering degree and get a job using that. All right, spectacles. This is the most common question. Yes, spectacles are allowed. If you have spectacles, it's not a problem. You just need to have 6x6 as your eyesight. So 6x6 is basically, you need to have, like, your eyesight should be perfect, basically. And that perfect eyesight can be either with spectacles or without spectacles. Not a difference. Doesn't matter, right? Okay. If you're weak in maths or physics, your engineering is a lot more tough. Believe me, the books that you study, the subjects that you study, they're a lot more in depth, and they're a lot more tough as compared to what being a pilot requires. As a pilot, you just need very, very basic maths and physics. Whatever you study till class 10th, that's all you need. Like, the maximum apna math goes to is like tan theta ki values kya hoti hai. And for that also you have a calculator. Like, calculators are allowed in the exam, and you can just do your calculations. That's the maximum level it goes up to, tan theta or sine theta. That's it. Something we studied in what, 8th, 9th class, I guess. Also, I'm reading the live chat. Okay, guys, it's not that I don't know what's going on here. And so being weak in maths and physics is not an issue. People are very afraid of that. I don't know why. As far sorry about my photos. Okay, I'm a little self-obsessed in this here, right? Very बहुत सारी photos हैं. Uh, as far as your English fluency goes, yes, you will have to be a little fluent in English, because English is the standard language for aviation. Whichever country you go to, no matter where you go to Russia, China, US, any language speaking country, English will be the standard language for aviation. You will speak to the engineers, the air traffic control, or anyone on this earth, you will only speak in English. So yes, you need to have a certain command on English. Even if you're not very fluent right now, it will eventually become fine. Okay, it's not a very big deal. Even I was pretty bad with English. I still am, but eventually you बोल के practice करके you tend to become better with it. So if you're not fluent with English, not a big deal. Don't worry too much about it. But थोड़ी बहुत तो आनी चाहिए. Do you need six pack abs, or do you need to be like a sub 10-second 100-meter sprinter? No, you just have to be physically fit. Physically fit implies you should be a healthy individual with no underlying diseases, no underlying problems. All you should have both your hands, you should have both your legs, and they should be working fine. So you basically have to undergo medicals. These medicals happen every year, and every year you have to prove your fitness. Fitness is, they won't make you run in the playground or make you swim across a pool. Fitness, they will check all your basic parameters like your blood, your urine, your heart rates, your ECG, basically your brain functioning, your EEG, and all of that will be checked. And so initially you do a class 2 medical, which is conducted by private doctors. If you guys want the list, it's available on DGCA website. After you clear your class 2 medical, you will then change over to a class 1 medical. And the class 1 medical initially is done by the Air Force. It's a very thorough medical. Obviously, Air Force kar rahi hai, so it has to be very thorough. And the thorough medical, it'll not test your stamina or anything. It's just basic. It has a number of tests. It'll test your eyesight. You can't be colorblind. You have to be 6 by 6 with your eyesight. Your heart function should be absolutely normal. You should not have any underlying things such as a fatty liver or something like that, thyroid problems. All of that should not be there. And so that's about it. Once you get your medical done, then you're absolutely eligible to be a pilot. Before you start off your career as a pilot, if any one of you is thinking of it, please do get your medicals done. Medicals being done first is the priority. Don't put in any money into aviation, because aviation requires a lot of money, about which we'll talk about. But don't put in any money until unless you're very sure that you're medically absolutely fit. Because if you're medically unfit, then it really doesn't make sense. You're just wasting money, right? Okay, so these are the requirements. So first of all, medical fitness, like I said, that's the first thing. Maths and physics in class 12th, the second thing. Loads of money, that's the main thing. To become a pilot, you require a lot of money. uh, Compared to engineering or becoming a doctor or something like that, it is going to take a lot of money. As far as the money part goes, I'll just tell you some figures, some general figures. So in India, to get your CPL license, which allows you to apply for airline jobs, you're going to require somewhere close to about 25 to 40 lakh rupees. It varies. There's a lot of variation from different flying schools, but somewhere close to about 25 to 40 lakhs is a good amount. It all depends upon which flying school you go to. If you go to a good place, that good place is going to charge you more, obviously. The training will be better. So it's going to be somewhere close to about 40. If you go to a comparatively, थोड़ा सा कम वाले जगह पे जाओगे, it's going to be about 25. And just a second, sorry. All right, so sorry about that. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, money part. That is for your getting your license. Now, eventually, when you go for a job, the airline is going to ask you for more money. So the basic process is you get your medical done first, then you have to clear some exams. You clear those exams. Once you're done with the exams, then you move on to a flying school where you finish your 200 hours of flying. Once you're done with the flying, then finally you'll move on to, like, you'll get a CPL license, and then you wait for vacancies to come out, and you apply in the vacancies, and then you get a job, right? That's the basic process. So when you apply for vacancy and you get selected in an airline, the airline's going to ask you for more money, and that more money is again a lot of money, and it's somewhere anywhere between 20 lakhs to 50 lakhs. Again, there's a huge variation. Spiced it, they're going to ask you for 55 lakh rupees when you join the airline, which is a huge amount of money. Um, otherwise, Ganesha is also here. Otherwise, secondly, if you join, let's say, Indigo is a very decent airline. Like, वैसे चिंदी चोरी नहीं करते, so they're gonna ask you for about 20 odd lakh rupees, which is a fairly decent amount. उतना लगता है training में. So it varies a lot, but on an average, if you include everything, your stay, you're gonna go out, you're gonna go partying, you're gonna drink alcohol, you're gonna do your training, you're gonna join an airline, pay them. All of this combined is gonna cost you somewhere close to about 65 lakh rupees. The whole process, everything will be somewhere close to about 65 lakhs. It can go up, it can be below 65 also. It's just very variable. I can't give you a fixed figure for this, but somewhere close to about 65 is a good amount. And that money part is the very biggest reason why a lot of people don't end up joining aviation, because I'm not very sure about the fees in other colleges, but I'm pretty sure it's way less than 65. So this is the main reason why people don't join. So as far as joining, as far as arranging the funds goes, which is probably the most major concern, I personally know that you can get an education loan. So, yeah, that's the most common way if you don't have the money. Education loan ke liye, you guys are gonna have to speak to a bank. I've seen people get 100% education loan as well. So go talk to a bank, and they'll tell you kitna loan mil sakta hai. You'll have to put up a collateral, obviously, for getting the loan. And if you're looking for a scholarship, there are scholarships available. You can get a scholarship from Ministry of Social Empowerment. So it's a central government ministry, and they give scholarships as of now. Currently, the scholarships are available for SC, scheduled caste students. In 1 year, they give scholarships to, I think, 10 students, if I'm not wrong, 10 or 12. And those 10 or 12 people, they are fully sponsored by the government. The government will pay for everything, and you can choose your own flying school. They will pay for it, and they will also pay for your further training as well, like for your airline training. For that also, the government pays. So if you're a SC student, you guys can go and contact Minister of Social Empowerment. Otherwise, taking up a loan is probably the best option. That's what my parents also did. We actually took up 2 loans, and you can pay them back. Once you get a job, paying back your loans is absolutely not a problem. All right, let me just move forward. Okay, how much money? I've already talked to you guys about how much money it's going to cost you. And okay, so like I said, you get a CPL license. So just like we have driving licenses that you get after you give a test, your driving test. Similarly, after you finish off your training, you're going to get a commercial pilot license. A commercial pilot license will then allow you to fly an aircraft for commercial purposes. Now, Nisha had asked, I think she had asked about getting a license for, like, recreational purposes. So you can get a license for recreational purposes also. That license is known as a PPL, a private pilot license. That's comparatively a lot cheaper. It'll cost you somewhere close to about 8 to 10 lakh rupees. And that allows you to fly an aircraft, but not for commercial purposes. Like, you can't earn money by flying that aircraft. You can just fly it for your own recreational purposes. In India, honestly speaking, the market for flying aircraft, just as a hobby, it's not very big, because the cost of flying an aircraft is pretty costly. If you get a PPL license and if you want to go fly an aircraft, it's going to cost you somewhere about 10,000 rupees per hour, somewhere close to that, 10 to 12,000 rupees an hour. And so if you have that kind of money, absolutely. If you don't want to pursue your career in aviation, if you just want to fly airplanes for a hobby, you can always get a PPL license and fly airplanes. Just go to a flying school, get an airplane, and just start flying. All right. So these are the more specifics of getting a license. So you have to clear exams. Now, DGCA is the Director General of Civil Aviation. It's the regulator in India for civil aviation. These guys will conduct exams. There are 5 exams, and you got to clear them. Plus, you have this RTR exam conducted by WPC, and then you got to fly for 200 hours on a real aircraft. You got to get your class 1 medical, and you got to be 18 plus. Once you meet all these requirements, you're going to get your license. Also, please don't report my photos to DGCA. A lot of cockpit photos here, which is legally not allowed. All right. If you want to go for your flying abroad, now that is also possible. You can go for your flying to, let's say, US, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa. There are a lot of options. If you choose one of those, the only difference is you have to clear less number of exams. In India, you were clearing 5 exams. Now you just have to clear 3 exams. So your exams are less. Plus, you get to visit a foreign country and you get to fly there. Cost will be approximately, honestly speaking, about the same. It again depends on which country you go to, but the total cost is somewhere about same 35-40 lakh rupees. All right. So after you get your CPL license, you have to do your type rating. Now, type rating is, so in your initial training, you learn how to fly a small airplane like a Cessna 172. It's basically a 4-seater or like a 6-seater aircraft. Eventually, you have to fly bigger airplanes. Like airlines, we as pilots, we fly bigger airplanes for airlines. So to get that training, that's known as type rating. Your type rating will be either done by yourself. So you can sponsor yourself for your type rating or pay for it to yourself, or you can have an airline sponsor it for you. Not actually sponsor it, you can have the airline send you for a type rating. So after you get a CPL license, you can either sponsor yourself, go for a type rating, or you can wait for a job, get a job, and then go for your type rating. Okay? Either ways, sorry. Either way, it's absolutely fine. It's just that पैसे वाली बात है. That's it. If you have the money, go for a type rating. If you don't, then wait for a job and then go for a type rating. The only difference is when you have a job, you can take up a loan on that job and then do your type rating. Either ways, you're gonna have to pay for it yourself. Gone are the days where the airlines would pay for your rating and they'd keep you in 5-star hotels. That is no longer there. Everyone is trying to save money, and it's just you have to pay for it. Okay, so like I said, pay for your type rating yourself, or your parents will pay for it basically, not you. All right, so type rating, like I said, if you do it on your own, it's going to cost you about 10 to 15 lakh rupees, right? But when you join the airline, they're again going to ask you for more money. So on the whole, it'll still be that same 20 to 50 lakh rupees. But if you do your type rating only on your own, it's somewhere close to about 10 to 15 lakh rupees, in which they teach you how to fly these bigger aircrafts. Like the one in the photo here, this is an Airbus A320, and you get to learn how to fly these. And this is the aircraft which I currently fly, the one which is on your screen right now. I mean, this is Air India, but I fly the similar aircraft. All right. So as far as the scope goes, the scope for aviation in India right now is very bad. Very honestly, currently it just sucks. Yeah, it's extremely bad. Why? Because obviously Corona. Pretty much every industry is like really badly hit. I think sirf daru wale or mask banane wale, they're the only ones in profit right now. Everyone else is struggling, and so is aviation. No one's traveling. No one is going on vacations anymore. So as a result, all our planes are pretty much empty. In my airline, I fly for AirAsia. We have 30 airplanes. Only 15 are flying right now. 15 airplanes are like sitting on the ground doing nothing right now. So that's a story for every airline. Not just in India, across the world. India is still faring okay because we still have a huge population. So you still find people to fill up airplanes. But smaller countries, such as like European countries, where it was actually very bad and people are still not traveling, airlines are like going bankrupt left, right, and center. A number of airlines have already filed for bankruptcy across the world. Thankfully, hasn't happened in India. Indian airlines are still doing pretty much okay. Like they're still surviving somehow. Uh, and I don't foresee any airline in India closing right now. But because of this corona, do not expect any jobs for the next at least about 2 years. That's a very honest thing. For the next 2 years, absolutely no jobs. Right? No one's going to hire. Airlines will eventually build up capacity, get back to their original levels. Currently, for example, I'll just give you a practical example. Last month, DGC released the data, and as per the official data, we flew 19 lakh or 20 lakh passengers. No, sorry, we flew 5 or 6 lakh passengers in a month, in the last month, which is July. And on an average, usually our airlines before the corona thing happened, we used to fly somewhere close to about 20 lakh passengers a month. So you can see the capacity is almost gone down to one third. Like the number of people wanting to fly are now down to one third. And as a result, obviously the airlines are in losses. Now, once the vaccines come out and the people, get the confidence to travel again, then things will slowly start to come up. So expect at least about 1.5, 2 years for that to happen. So no jobs for 1.5, 2 years. So anyone who has a CPL right now, they're in a soup. They're not in a very nice place. However, if you plan to start training now, if you start just right now, things should be okay by the time you get your CPL license and by the time you wait for a job. Like by the time you look for a job, things should be okay by then. But as of now, it's just really bad. Okay, there's also something known as the cadet program. Now, cadet program is something which is an airline thing where the airline will take care of everything for you. You don't have to worry about your ground classes. You don't have to worry about your flying. You don't have to worry about your type rating, anything at all. The airline will take care for all of it. The only problem is they'll charge you a lot of money. All cadet programs, no matter what the airline tells you, they'll cost you upward of 1 crore rupees. Okay? So if your dad has a lot of black money, or if you're super duper rich, or if you have a lot of factories running, you guys can anyway anytime go for it. The airline guarantees you a job. At the end of your whole training, the airline will guarantee something of a guarantee. It's not exactly a guarantee. If you meet all the requirements, they're gonna take you up as a pilot. So you basically have this peace of mind in a career program that tomorrow, irrespective of whatever happens, irrespective of how much waiting time is there, I'll still get a job. And that's, if you can afford it, I would personally suggest any day go for a cadet program. However, if you cannot afford it, well, you don't have a choice. Okay. As far as getting a job, like I said, no job for the next 2 years. But normally, airlines, irrespective of their career programs, will always hire from the open market. There will always be people who will be doing their career programs. So they obviously have a job. For those of us who did our conventional CPLs like me, I also did my own CPL on my own. I was not a part of a career program. So the airlines will hire us as well. Airlines will come out with vacancies for people who have a normal CPL license. And then you have to go through the selection process of the airline and then get in, right? So if you do it the conventional way, don't worry ki jobs nahi aayenge or airlines will not hire because they have career programs. That's not going to happen. Airlines will still continue to hire. Okay. Yeah. If you're rich, yes, obviously, your job is pretty much guaranteed. You get a LOI, a letter of intent, where the airline is going to tell you that, see, if you meet these requirements in your training, at the end of your training, we will hire you as and when we have the vacancies. So you might have to wait for a bit for the airline to come up with vacancies, in the sense, come up with requirement for people. And when they come up with requirements, they're going to take you in first, and then to fill up the remaining requirements, they're going to pick up people from the open market. All right. Airline selection process, it's usually pretty simple. It's basically a theoretical exam first. All airlines have, it's slightly different, but the overall concept is pretty much the same. You first give a theoretical exam. After the exam, you give a small, you have a psychometric test. After your psychometric test, you then probably give a group discussion, or you could have a, what do you call, another basically a computer based test. Like your multitasking will be checked, kind of. So you'll sit on a computer, you'll have to fly an aircraft, plus you'll on another screen you will get some calculations to do or some memory things to remember, and you have to multitask, keep everything in your head. And after this is done, you move on to a personal interview, and after the interview you're hired for an airline. That's the usual selection process. Sometimes it might be different. Like some airlines will do it differently. For example, while I was with Jet hired pilots only and only on the basis of a personal interview, like a 15-20 minutes interview, and that's it. You're hired with the company. So it's airline's own thing. Every airline has a different selection process, which also changes with time. So I can't define you, this is exactly how it goes. All right. As far as your salaries go, I think I've already mentioned this, but somewhere close to about 2 lakh rupees a month is where you start off from. as a first officer once you get released. And eventually, a few years down the line, you become a senior first officer. Your salary goes up to somewhere close to about 3 to 4 lakh rupees a month. After that, you become a captain. As a captain, you earn about 6 to 7 lakh rupees a month. And then eventually, as you become more and more senior in the airline, as you gain more experience, your salary will continue to increase. So expect starting of about two. When you end your career at 65, when you retire, you should be getting somewhere close to about 15, 16 lakh rupees a month, which is decent, honestly. Uh, how much do we fly? How much do we work? Well, you have very strict regulations with respect to flying. It's called FTTL, flight duty time limitations. So there are rules which define how much we can fly. On an average, in a month, you will fly close to about 70 to 80 hours on any airline you join. Sometimes you can go up to even 100 or 110. Sometimes you can be even close to 50 hours. So it just depends on which airline you're flying for and what type of aircraft you're flying. uh, for example, as currently, right now, so it's really bad. Right now I only do like 3 flights in a month. Every month on an average I'm doing about 3 flights because the aircrafts are not flying. So currently I'm flying like 15 hours a month, but normally in usual times it's somewhere close to about 80 hours. On an average, your working pattern usually is like you work for 6 days or you fly for 6 days and then you get one day off, or sometimes even 2 days off. That depends. So you're working somewhere close to about 6 to 8 days in a week, and you get about 7 to 8 days off in a month, which is pretty much like every other airline, to be honest. All right, moving on further. Can you fly for fly for like Emirates or Etihad or Singapore? Yes, you can. Not at the beginning of your career. You need to gain some experience. After you gain that experience, then yes, you can apply to these bigger airlines. Move on to a bigger aircraft like a Boeing 777 or a 747. And once you've achieved that, yes, you can apply to these airlines, get selected there, and start flying. Both of them, yeah, that's an option. Uh, Wide body aircraft. So wide body, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but wide body are the bigger airplanes. Like they have multiple aisles. Normally, when you fly an aircraft, you must have seen there's only one aisle where the cabin crew walks around, right? In wide body jets, you have two aisles. So the crew can walk in two different spaces. You have seats in the middle as well. So these wide body airplanes, you usually fly them once you have gained experience. And gaining that experience will obviously be on a narrow body aircraft. After that, eventually you can apply to an airline which has wide body airplanes. In India, not a lot of airlines have wide bodies. As of now, currently, only Air India has them, and Vistara has a 787. That's it. But in the future, yes, Vistara will be getting more airplanes, and Air India is obviously there. So these are the two airlines where you can fly wide bodies in India. Otherwise, if you go abroad, for example, your this thing, Emirates, Etihad, these airlines operate pure wide bodies, and joining them, yes, you will end up on a wide body aircraft. If you do not, for some reason, want to fly for an airline, there's a lot of other options as well. When you get your CPL license, you can be an instructor, you can join the Coast Guard, you can join the Indian Air Force, you can join a charter company, or you can fly a private jet for someone like Reliance or Tata's or someone. So these are your other options than just flying for an airline. All right. So career progression, like I said, first officer, senior first officer, captain. Then you get into training. So after captain, all the other three positions, the LTC, instructor, examiner, these guys are then teaching people. You're no longer you're still flying airplanes, but now you're also teaching people on how to fly airplanes. So basically, the bottom three, the line LTC, instructor, examiner, they will be teaching the upper three, the first officer, senior first officer, and captain. They'll be teaching them how to become or how to fly an aircraft. Retirement age is 65. Unlike the armed forces, here we retire at 65 as commercial pilots if you want to fly for that long, right? That was a very basic presentation on being a pilot. If you guys want, I can share this with you. Anyone who wants it, the ones who are watching, or you guys, if you want to share it with your people in your college, I can send you this. Ankita, probably I can send it to you and you can forward it to whoever wants it. Right?
Sure.
All righty.
Thank you
Do you
so
guys
much
want
for the presentation, sir. It was really
anything?
enlightening.
Thank
Ritik
you.
had a question for you. So, Ritik,
Yes.
go on with your question.
Hello, sir. My name is Ritik, and I'm from
Yeah,
Rotaract.
Ritik.
So basically, you're a pilot, and being in aviation, you will have no time on what you're doing and all those. But then you have a YouTube page, and you're a YouTuber. And how do you manage it, and what made you think you need to go on YouTube?
Yeah, okay. YouTube thing was never planned. I started my channel about 2 years back, and I have been very irregular with it. Like I post back then, I used to post like one video in like 2-3 months. कभी ऐसे मन किया टाइम पास करना था तो ऐसी गंदी सी वीडियो बना के I just posted it. And I was very awkward with the camera initially, obviously, because I had never done public speaking or speaking to a camera. It just feels very weird. But as far as finding the time goes, see, if you love something, if you want to do something, not just YouTube, there are a lot of other things in my life which I love to do. Photography or biking or traveling or anything. All of these things, if you're passionate about something, you end up finding time for it. If you are passionate about, if I'm passionate about my YouTube channel, then I try and find time. For example, or even taking classes. I teach students. I teach people who want to become pilots. So teaching them also it requires a lot of time. So for example, if I'm flying normally, so I'll take a class early morning and then I'll go for my flight. Or maybe I'll land early morning from an all-night flight, and instead of going to sleep, I will first go and teach the students, finish off with my class, finish off with my topic for the day, and then go back home and sleep. So you just gotta make time for it. You gotta work hard. I know it gets a little tiring sometimes, but then you take a break, chill out a bit. But otherwise, it does take a lot of time and it does take a lot of hard work. But to get to some place where you want to be, or to get to some place which is better than where you were earlier, it always will require you to work harder than usual. Because अगर नहीं करोगे तो everyone would be at a good place, right? To get to a particular level, you need to work for it. You just can't sit at home and flight करके आए सो गए आराम से उठे अगले दिन flight कर ली. So you'll just be a pilot for your entire life. So it's just about finding your passion and then working for it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Should we take some questions from everyone who's on the chat? Like
Yeah.
if you guys have any
Yeah, sure,
questions
sir.
so that they don't get bored.
So,
Okay.
Shivang
Yes.
Sahu asked,
So,
what is the minimum number of flying experience required?
Okay, minimum flying experience required. See, when you do your training, you're gonna fly for 200 hours. So that 200 hours is your minimum experience to get a CPL license. After that, to join an airline, 200 hours is sufficient. Airlines come out with vacancies for freshers. Fresher basically means you have 200 hours of experience. And so you join an airline, then you start flying for them. As you gain more and more experience, then you can move on further to either bigger airplanes, or once you gain about 3,000 odd hours, you've flown for about 3,000 hours, then you can eventually become a captain. So to become a captain, your R requirement is 3,000. To become a what? To fly a wide body airplane, for example, if you want to join, let's say Emirates, Emirates has a requirement of 2,000 hours. So you need to have 2,000 hours of experience first, and then you can apply at Emirates and get selected. To fly a wide body aircraft, again, you need to gain experience somewhere close to about 1,000-1,500 hours, and then you can move on to a wide body aircraft. So your experience levels differ depending on what you're looking at. So it depends on whatever your aim is. Captain बनना है 3,000 चाहिए, Emirates जाना है 2,000 hours चाहिए, and so on and so forth. Okay, I think Nisha had a question.
So, I was seeing in the
Hold on.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Ask.
Yeah, I was okay. Yeah, I was seeing in the internet, sir. Most of the foreign airlines, like the Emirates, the Lufthansa, the Singapore Airlines, are amongst the best in
Mhm.
like luxury and amenities for flyers, both for employees also.
Mhm.
So why is it that none of the Indian airlines feature in this best of the airlines list?
Okay, yeah, see, thing with India is Indian market is very challenging. First of all, the government policies are not very supportive of airlines. The taxes are too high. be it airport charges or be it for your fuel or be it for just using the airspace. All of this, the government is charging us with a lot of taxes, as in the airlines. And secondly, the thing is, India is still a third world country coming into the second world, right? The majority of the people in India, they still want to book an airline which is cheap, right? When you go online to book a ticket, what's the first thing that we see? Even me, if I want to travel on some other airline, if I don't want to use my free tickets, what's the first thing that I go and see? Sir, that's the ticket kaun si hai, right? And that is still the reason, that is still because our India as a country is still coming up. People are not rich enough to, like, book a business class ticket, or look for a good airline rather than looking for a cheap ticket. So what will the airline is a business at the end of the day. You want to make money, right? So you're going to cater for the audience which is the largest, like Indigo or Go Air, or basically all the low cost carriers. They all cater for the market which is the bigger market, which is the people who are looking for cheap tickets. So as a result of that cheapness, or to get the rates down, the airlines have to keep their standards low. For example, Jet Airways. I used to fly for Jet. Jet was amongst the good airlines. If it wasn't amongst the top airlines, it was still a very, very good airline, right? And the thing with Jet was the operating costs were extremely high. Why? Because they had to maintain a particular standard. So if you want to give, I'll just give you a very small example. If you want to give your passengers cutlery, like proper steel cutlery, instead of plastic spoons, that's a standard, right? My airline, if it gives you guys steel cutlery instead of giving you those gandhi se plastic wali spoons, you are maintaining a particular standard for your airline. But then that's cost, right? You're carrying extra weight on the aircraft. You are paying the caterer extra for those steel spoons and everything. So, as a result, your operating cost will go up. You'll probably end up in losses, and you'll probably end up shutting down. Why? Because the government policies are not exactly supportive of you running your airline. So that's the reason why Indian Airlines are more worried about operating costs or reducing their operating costs. And as the sub result of that, the standards are also low. And as a result, we don't have any airline which features in, like, the most luxurious airline or the best airline in the world. However, Indigo is one exception. Indigo, although being a cheap airline or a low cost carrier, they are very, very well functioning, and they are, like, it's probably one of the best managed airlines in the world. They have 250 airplanes, or more than 250 airplanes now, and which is pretty very, very, very good. Like, compared to world standards, it's larger than most airlines in the world. Like, 250 airplanes is a lot. So Indigo is one exception we have in India. But again, the product that they offer is not very luxurious. As a result, it does not feature in the best airlines in the world.
Okay, so from the live chat, we have a question from Anurag
Yes.
Patwardhan. He
Yeah,
asks,
one more
"Can I
question from the
join
chat
Air
box.
Force?" Yeah, he
Sorry.
asks, "Can I join in the Air Force and then shift to commercial flying?"
Yes.
And
That is
okay,
okay. Mhm.
okay, so is it possible that I
Yes.
can join an Air Force and then shift to commercial flying?
Yes, you can do that. It is pretty simple. Air Force, if you join Air Force, and if you join the flying branches in Air Force, so if you're either a helicopter pilot or a transport pilot or a fighter pilot, either of these three, you can always, once you're done with your contract with the Air Force, you can always shift off to commercial aviation. That's what most people honestly do. We have a lot of ex Air Force or even ex Navy or ex Coast Guard. A lot of these people, once they're done with their tenures with the armed forces, they eventually come down to civil aviation. It is very much possible. The upside of that is you don't have to pay for your training. When you join the Air Force, or if you join the Navy in their flying wing, you don't pay for your training. The airline, sorry, not the airline, the government or the armed forces, they'll pay you, they'll train you, and yes, you can. It's just that you have that tenure, those 10, 12, 15 years that you have to serve the armed forces. At the end of it, you can join civil aviation. Those guys also, they usually join directly as captains. So because they already have a lot of experience flying the military airplanes, they usually join as captains. Or you might be a first officer for a very small time, and then the airline will upgrade you to a captain. And the money that you pay from your pocket, if you follow that way, is very, 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 very minuscule But the problem with that, the major problem with that, is when you give your NDA exam or if you give your CDS exam, there is no guarantee that you will be taken in the flying branch. Okay? Only the people who perform good in their NDA or in their whatever training or the AFCAT, only very, very, very select people are taken into the flying branch. There are also engineering branches, there are admin branches. A lot of people end up in those branches as well. So if you join the Air Force and you're not in the flying branch, then you're kind of screwed because obviously you're not flying, so airlines will not hire you. So that's the downside.
Okay, so we have another question from Vansh Phogat. He asks, I have a mild red-green color deficiency. Can I still become a pilot?
Okay, as far as being colorblind goes, there are levels to it. Like he said, he has mild red green. There are different levels to it, and because I'm not a doctor, I would not honestly comment on it because I am not very sure. There are certain levels which are allowed, or certain deficiencies which are allowed, and some which are not allowed. So what I can suggest is that go on to dgca.gov.in. That's the website for DGCA, and over that, if you search, you'll get a list for the class 2 doctors. So it's basically just a list which has the phone numbers of all the class 2 approved doctors. Call up any doctor, probably someone who's in your city. Call them up and ask them for guidance. They'll give you a lot better guidance on this than me because a doctor will know it much better than me.
Jyotika, you had a question for sir. You may go on with your question.
Yeah. Sir, apart from being a pilot, you have like too many hobbies, like you are a biker, you're a footballer, and I hope you might have all these hobbies in your childhood even. And so, how did you cope up with your both schooling and your interest at the same time? Like, it's not easy for
Uh,
all the students, I mean, like to manage them in a same level.
Jyotika, to be honest, when I was in school, I was very, very different. Okay, right now, what you're seeing, the page that you're seeing here right now, I was not this kind of person in school. I was extremely shy. Back in school, I used to be a proper introvert, and I just I couldn't talk to people like looking them in the eyes. I was that shy back in school. And as far as my hobbies went in school, I did not have any hobbies, to be very honest, except playing football. I used to play a lot of football, and that was the only thing which I had. Otherwise, it was all just an introvert kid who used to be busy with his books and probably playing football. That's it. So, but eventually, as I grew up, as I came into aviation, especially, that's when I started realizing what all I love other than aviation or other than flying airplanes, and that's when I started to cultivate these habits. But honestly, in school, I did not have any hobbies. So I'm sorry, but I can't really tell you how to manage your time with your schooling and your hobbies.
Yeah, it's fine. And yeah, one more question from the live chat. And
Yes.
Pavanjit Singh is asking that can a middle class student become a pilot?
Okay. Very nice question. See, I am also a very middle class guy. Okay. I'm not someone who's super rich or who was born very rich. If I tell you the exact story of how I've spent my childhood, would be like a pilot kahan se ban gaya types. A middle class person can, yes, you can obviously be a pilot. It's just that it's going to be a little tough on your parents. It's not going to be tough on you because obviously तुम्हें पैसे नहीं देने, but on your parents it's going to be tough because they'll have to probably take up a loan. It's like my parents had to do it, and that's the whole problem with it. If your parents are up for taking a loan, yes, absolutely you can. Unfortunately, the fees cannot go down. It is what it is. You have to pay for your CPL. If you're not a SC student, you don't get any scholarships. तो यार पैसे तो देने ही पड़ेंगे. अब वो पैसे कहाँ से arrange करते हो? Despite being a normal average middle class guy, my parents managed to arrange it. Uh, Speak to your parents, see what their financial conditions are. And also, one more thing when it comes to being a pilot and a middle class guy, if your parents are not comfortable with it, I understand it might be your passion, it might be your dream, and you might be just thinking about airplanes all day and night. But don't put up too much pressure on your parents because they would have also worked hard their entire life. And if they are not comfortable with it, if they don't have the money for it, honestly, I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend someone to push their parents into, कि हमें बनाओ pilot. चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए, I don't care where you arrange the money from. I want to be a pilot. Please don't do that. Uh, there are other ways to do it. I personally know a lot of people who work themselves. Like, for example, you guys, you're all engineers. You get your degree. You start you start working somewhere. Save up the money yourself. Ask your parents to help you out as much as they can, and arrange the rest of the money yourself. I personally know a lot of cabin crew. They started off from very, very, very average families. They worked as a cabin crew for like 5, 6 years. They worked really hard. They saved up the money. ये नहीं है कि पार्टी में जा रहे हैं और दारू के पैसे उड़ा रहे हैं. They saved up the money, and at the end of it, they did their CPL on their own. They sponsored themselves. So please don't pressurize your parents. If they can afford it, well and good. If they can take up a loan, again, great. But don't be behind them. मेरे को pilot ही बनना है. जिद लेके मत बैठना, please. If you want to be one, work hard yourself and sponsor yourself. That is also very much possible. Or maybe join the Air Force. Do well in the AFCAT exam, or the naval ka wing wala, or join something else. Save up the money and then come on this side. Then become a commercial pilot.
Sir, another
And
question. So
yes,
many,
sir.
yeah, sir, go on. Yeah, go on, sir.
No, no, it's okay.
Okay. So another question is, many of the people, common people, they say that like flying is a very risky job. I mean, so you get paid a much, but it is a risky job. So what do you have a say on this thing? But
Okay.
I know that more people die from road accidents and train accidents. But still, I don't know how
That,
this concept comes that flying is a risky job. So how
okay.
would you like to
I'll
comment
tell you.
on that?
I'll tell you why it's risky. See, when you're driving a car, right? You're on the road. You're driving a car. You're on the highway, and your engine blows up. Okay? Your radiator blows up. Your engine blows up. You throw out a piston. What do? You stop the car, take it to the side of the road, stop the car, open your door, get out, call up someone, and either call up a crane or call up your friend or ask someone to pick you up, right? Or you open the bonnet and you try and solve the problem yourself. In an airplane, if something goes wrong, you can't do that. You can't park the airplane on the side कहीं पे and फिर जहाज से उतर के उसको ठीक करो. You're in the air, right? You're under perpetual motion, so you can't really park it on the side. And that's the reason why we are trained. That's, honestly speaking, that's the only reason why we're trained, however much we are trained. It's just because we can't park it and solve the problem on our own. And that is why people consider it risky. However, honestly speaking, airplanes, especially the commercial airplanes, all the new ones which are coming out, except the 737 Max, we're not talking about the Max here. All the other airplanes, they're all extremely reliable. On your airplane, everything is two in number at least. You'll have two pilots, you'll have two engines, you'll have two of every computer, you'll have two of every antenna, you'll have two of every control surface. Each and everything is at least two in number for redundancy. So in case one fails, you always have the other one as a backup. You can even have 3, 4, 5 things also. You can have 4 or 5 computers doing the same job. Why? Just because in case one fails or two fail, then obviously the other ones will take over. So flying in an airplane is extremely safe. And like you said, I have more chances of dying on my way to the airport from my house than I have when I'm flying an aircraft. So in terms of the number of deaths, it's pretty much probably the safest mode of, not probably, it is the safest mode of transportation. The risk is more in your fighter flying. When you're flying fighters for the Air Force, that is the risky part because fighters tend to fail a bit more, and there's a lot of factors to fighters. But commercial flying and commercial aviation, extremely safe. Absolutely nothing to worry about. So if someone feels कि मैं मर जाऊंगा जहाज उड़ाते हुए, believe me, that's not gonna happen. Like people will actually, just to add to it,
Okay,
people will
Abed,
actually, sorry, people will actually spend like 60, 40, 45 years of their career. Like people have spent 45 years of their career flying a commercial jet, and they haven't had a single failure on the aircraft. Like 45 years of a career and nothing failed. I personally have been flying for 10 years and I have never had any major failure. on any of my airplanes. So pretty much safe.
Abed, if you have some question, you can ask, sir.
Yes, sir. I have some question.
Yes, Abhay.
First of all, my question is military and civil aviation similar? Are there any? Can you please mention some key differences?
Okay, military and civil are absolutely different. We fly for money. We fly to make money for someone else. But military is totally different. Yeah. Military mein you don't fly for money. You don't care about money. You don't care about saving fuel. You don't care about safety that much. Yeah. In military, things are a lot different because you're mostly flying missions. You're mostly flying tactical missions wherein your main aim is to get something from A to B. For example, let's say you're carrying some people, you're carrying soldiers from Delhi to Leh. Your main aim there is to carry those soldiers safely from A to B or from Delhi to Leh, and you don't really care how much fuel you burn in that. But when you come to commercial side of things, because you're running a private company or even if you're working for a government airline, your main aim is to save money or to save fuel. So in civil aviation, the main priority after safety is always economy. So you always look at the economy factor. Uh, in civil aviation, you'll always end up only flying passengers from A to B. Okay, it's only just passengers. When you fly military, you end up flying in very different environments, first of all, because you don't always end up flying to very safe places, right? If you're flying for the military, you might end up कोई लड़ाई चल रही है, तो you might end up going flying to a airport which is in the war zone. Commercial aviation, you'll never do that. Military में you might end up transporting tanks or you might end up flying some weird aircraft. अपने जैसे अपने इंडिया में our air force is still flying like AN-32s, which are like 1950s के aircrafts हैं. We're still flying them. In commercial aviation, you'll never find those airplanes. You'll always fly the latest, the most modern technology. Why? Because the airlines want to save money. Modern technology is more efficient, so you'll always have the latest technology. Military, mein you'll a lot of times find that you're flying very old. That's अपना MiG-21s. I'm sure all of you know. MiG-21s are extremely old fighter jets, like 1970s के हैं वो, and they're still flying today in India. Why? Because military, में no one really cares about the money or the efficiency part of things. So yeah, military flying it's a totally different ball game and a lot more fun, honestly, if you ask me.
Okay. We have a very funny question from one of the live chat. So Vansh asks that can pilots have beards? So let me structure it in a way. I mean, is there a very strict dress code for all the pilots? I mean,
And
beards, tattoos, and long hair. Are these
okay,
allowed and or not?
okay. See, मेरी beard आती नहीं है, तो otherwise I would have also had a beard right now. But मेरी ढंग से आती नहीं. I still have like patches and वो बच्चों वाली beard नहीं होती, मेरी वैसे आती है. But beards are absolutely allowed. We as airline pilots, we're technical people, right? We're trained for technicalities, and for us, अपने लिए ना इतना it doesn't matter. It matters more for the cabin crew because they are the face of an airline. अपना क्या यार? We go to the cockpit, we close our fucking door, and we don't open it for the rest of the flight, right? No one's seeing me as a pilot. No one's here to see how I look. However, for the cabin crew, those guys have to look. They have to be presentable. Because they're the ones who are facing the passengers. So it's very strict for them. They have to have proper trimmed hair. Beards are not allowed. If they're allowed, they have to be properly trimmed. And they have a lot of 100,000 other rules on how to do their makeup, how long can their nails be. उनका सब rules हैं. अपने लिए for pilots, you can have tattoos, you can have long hair, you can have beard. You'll probably called a hippie. People will be like कि भाई क्या हो गया जंगल क्यों आ रखा है. But no airline can tell you कि cut off your hair or that's not there. I personally have 3 tattoos, and the only thing that has happened is I've pissed off a few people because I have tattoos. Because some senior instructors, they're like, tattoo बनवा रखा है, ज़्यादा उछलने वाला लड़का types. But otherwise, no one really cares.
Yeah, Vaibhav Bhaiya, you have a question, I guess, so you can ask, sir.
Yeah, so sir, seek the photos of like pilots, the IG handles. The one might get a feel that it's a top class job. So we had a question that is it real that aviation field jobs are always over promoted and treated as
See,
the top class
a
jobs?
lot of people, especially the pilots, will not like this. But honestly speaking, they used to be great at one point of time. Like somewhere in the 1990s and early 2000s, pilots used to be very, very respected. They used to be, I'll just give you a very small example. If you were flying somewhere in 2000s, when you get out of your car, you would have a person waiting for you at the gate of the airport. He is gonna take your bag all the way, and you don't even have to carry your bag. Whoever you meet, they're gonna like salute you, sir karenge, and you'll get ज़्यादा ही respect. Yeah. I personally don't like that. I personally don't like anyone carrying my bag, but people who wanted it, they got it. In today's date, with the advent of low-cost carriers and with the number of flights that we operate, honestly speaking, जो इज्जत है ना, वो थोड़ी सी काफी कम हो गई है. मतलब बहुत कम हो गई है, to be honest. Now we're just like a number for the airline. You have a staff number with the airline, and you're just that number for the airline. You as a third person to someone who's non-aviation, yes, it's still very lucrative. It's still very very glamorous. But for us, अपने लिए, like for those of us who are in the industry, believe me, it's getting worse by the day. The regulations which govern our flying times, they are being relaxed. So airlines are making us fly a lot more. We're operating a lot more flights now. The salaries are increasing, but not at the same rate as the inflation is. The working conditions in the airlines, the way people treat you in the airline, it's getting worse and worse. And so on the whole, honestly speaking, it's becoming bad with time. But if I compare it with some other job, like if I compare it with, I don't know, let's say corporate 9 to 5 job, compared to that, I would still say that yes, it's still a very, very good job. However, if I compare being a pilot in the past to being a pilot right now, it's become pretty bad. Uh, for example, Indigo, you are flying for 80 hours, right? In a month, you fly for 80 hours, but that 80 hours is only your flying. How much time are you spending at the airport? That will be close to 130, 140 hours. Sometimes you operate one flight, let's say I operate Delhi to Bombay, and then I have to come back from Bombay to Delhi. But that Bombay to Delhi flight is after 4 hours. So for those 4 hours, I'm just sitting at the airport doing absolutely nothing. And then I come back. So your total duty time that you spent at the airport or away from your house, that's a lot more as compared to whatever time you're flying the aircraft. So बोलने के लिए 80 hours ही fly के महीने में, but actually you were at the airport away from your house for like 130, 140, even 150 hours in a month, and that gets a lot and it does get tiring. But we as humans always have this habit of nitpicking. No matter how good your life gets, I'm sure 2000s वाले लोग हैं वो भी complain करते होंगे. आज हम भी complain कर रहे हैं. मेरे बाद जो आएंगे, they will also complain about it, because I don't know why, but pilots become very very picky people who just keep on complaining about everything. So that's how it is. We just love to complain for some reason. I don't know.
Okay, Ankita, you can ask your question.
Okay, as you already mentioned, that the job is risky, and I think the responsibility is much more because behind you there are so many passengers. So, did you ever feel to leave this career and opt for something else during your training or during your
I would not leave aviation for anything else on this earth. Except maybe, I don't know, if you make me an astronaut, I would probably leave this. But otherwise I would not leave aviation for anything. No matter how bad it gets, no matter how hard they make me work, at the end of the day, I still feel very good about what I do. I love flying the airplane, and when I fly it the way I want it to fly, and when I make a good landing, or when a passenger comes up and is like, nice landing, or when the crew appreciates it, or even at the end of the day, you feel happy about it, because at the end of the day, I'm doing something which I love. So no matter the risks, honestly, there are no risks. But still, no matter the working conditions, no matter the salary, irrespective of everything else, it is a lovely job at the end of the day. And I personally absolutely love it. And I would not leave it for anything, like literally anything in the world.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, if you are checking our live chat now, so if you want,
Uh,
you can choose any question you are preferable with, and you can answer that.
Choose any question. Okay. Prachi is saying best
Yeah.
job. Yeah. She's also a pilot with Go Air and a very good friend. All right. I think okay. There's just too many messages out here. Okay, I'll just pick random ones. Uh, in terms of market conditions or security, how can where did it go? Where did the question go? It disappeared. Oh, I think it's gone up. Oh God. Okay, yeah. How can how can a career in aviation be risky? Right now, it is very risky, yeah. Right now, because of all this corona and everything going on right now, it is honestly speaking pretty risky. But things will be better. India is one of the fastest growing aviation markets. It has been growing at a very, very good rate. We are currently third largest in the world in terms of before Corona, we were third largest in the world in terms of market, in terms of people flying. And eventually, in the coming years, we will be number one because we have so many people, just like 1.3 billion people who want to fly. And as people get more money, as people shift to more urban areas from the rural areas, and they will always have to travel. You can't go to the USA for a vacation in a car, right? You have to take an airplane. So aviation in India will always grow. Right now, what is happening right now, it's all just very, very temporary. It won't last for more than about 2 years. And after 2 years, things will be absolutely fine again. Especially once the vaccines and all come in, it's gonna be just absolutely like it was before. So nothing to worry about. Don't worry about that. It's risky right now, but not in the future. Okay, Praveen has a question. If I don't get a job when you turn 34, I don't really understand why that would happen. But uh, if you get a job, if you do your CPL, please don't do it if you're 30 plus, right now at least. Because 30 plus ke baad, if you do your CPL, airlines only hire till about 35 vacancies. When they come out, the upper age limit is about 35. So if you're 30 plus, I wouldn't really recommend. If you're below 30, it's absolutely fine. You can do it. And okay, one small thing that I would like to address, which is about the ongoing controversy about AirAsia being safe or not. Uh, there's been a lot of things going on. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. Are you? Are you aware of the AirAsia is unsafe or AirAsia is safe?
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
something
I
related
heard
to
some
like landing.
speculations about the safety
There was
considerations.
something related to landing
Yeah,
and
flaps and all. Yeah.
flaps, two
So
flaps and three
uh,
flaps.
yeah, there was some issues about that. So one of our pilots, Gaurav, who is also a YouTuber, he was terminated from the company because he raised some issues about the safety of the airline and the safety of aviation in general at AirAsia. So answering to that, because I've been getting a lot of questions on this, and I usually try and avoid getting into that. But since we're here, since I can see a few people asking about that, I'll just tell what I personally feel on the issue. See, I don't disagree with what Gaurav has said. Whatever points he had, I have absolutely no disagreement with them. He's also very experienced, right? He's been flying for a while, and he knows what he's saying. So whatever points he raised, I even agree with a few points. It's not like I don't agree or I disagree with him. It's just that those were his personal points, like whatever issues he raised. I personally did not find those issues with the airline, so I did not raise them. Right, those were his issues. If he is raising them, if he has a problem with the airline in some way, it's absolutely his call. I, being a YouTuber, I'm in no way, I am not obliged in any way to either take a stand with him or against him. Right. Uh, I work for the same airline. I personally do not find those issues in the airline. So if he had a problem with all of those issues, well, bad for him. He raised them. That's good for him. And if he's getting something done with that because he's famous, and because he has a lot of following, then absolutely that's very good for him. And if he can bring about some good change in aviation industry as general, or in the airline or any place, that'll be a really good thing on him. But personally, I would not get into, I would not exactly support him, or I would not stand against him. That's my own personal standing, just to let everyone know who's been asking me. Also, flaps 3 are safe, please. Flaps 3 is not unsafe. And that was not his point, I know, and that is not the point anytime. The people took up this flap thing very seriously. People started thinking flaps 3 is unsafe, which is, believe me, not the case. Flaps are absolutely safe. Flaps 3 are absolutely safe. Flaps 3 landings are recommended by the manufacturers, Boeing and Airbus. So please stop thinking flaps 3 are unsafe. It's not the case. What Gaurav's issue was, that was totally different. He never said flaps 3 is unsafe. He said something totally different. Anyways, yeah, that's enough about Gaurav Taneja and the controversy.
Sir, I had a very interesting, like, experienced question. Like, in this
Mhm.
COVID situation, we daily see lakhs and lakhs of people stranding abroad in foreign lands, London, New York,
Uh-huh.
Moscow. So, as a
Yes.
pilot, you must have like experience bringing back people to India, to their homeland. So, have you ever like talked to any person? Like, how has their
Uh,
experience been? How thankful is he to the Indian Airlines government?
okay. Honestly speaking, I have not done that till now because my airline, AirAsia, we were not involved in Vande Bharat missions. Uh, thing with AirAsia right now is, in India, AirAsia is a domestic airline. Okay? They do not have permission to fly international as of now. As a result, AirAsia was not involved in the Vande Bharat missions, so we did not bring anyone back. Okay? We did fly a few flights wherein we took the laborers back to their destinations. Uh, that Sonu Sood, if you, I'm sure all of you know him. He chartered a few of our airplanes to get the laborers back to their native places from the major cities. I think Bombay to Patna, I think, was the flight. So we've done that flight, but otherwise we haven't done any Vande Bharat missions as such. So I really can't tell you how the passengers were thankful to us. Plus, honestly speaking, they were paid. They've paid for the tickets, right? So I don't think they'd be very very thankful. Free में लेके आ रहे थे तो I believe वो थोड़ा thank you बोलते. But because they paid for it, I don't think they would be very thankful for it.
Okay, this is an announcement for all the audience who are viewing us right now. We are conducting a quiz on aviation and aeromodeling. So the link of the Google form is under the chat box. You may participate and follow our Instagram handle for the results in a day or few.
Can I also
So
participate?
Ankita, do you have any question for
I'll
sir?
also,
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yes, sure.
I'll also participate.
But then sir would win straight away.
Okay, Ankita, do you have
There's
any
no
So there
point,
are
other
many
right?
questions
questions?
coming up.
नहीं नहीं, a lot of people would be यार, ऐसा नहीं है.
I would like to, I would really like to know about your bike, Kiki.
What
Like I
Kiki?
saw that you,
अच्छा.
the bike back after 6 months.
Yeah, she's a Ninja 1000, and I got her in 2018 after I got my command. It was like my command gift to myself. And after I got her, I crashed her very nicely, and I was driving to Amritsar, and I had a very very nice crash on it, wherein
I saw the video
I
as
pretty much,
well.
yeah. So I somehow survived because of my riding gear, but I still have a lot of injuries. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I'm still like hurt in a lot of places. यहाँ पर भी है, शोल्डर में है, काफी जगह लगी थी. And I'm alive. I'm sitting here talking to you because I was wearing my riding gear. So anyone who's watching, please, whenever you ride a bike or even a scooty or even a freaking cycle, please wear a helmet. At least a helmet, because that's gonna save your ass. Otherwise, मैंने riding gear नहीं पहना होता ना, believe me, I would have not been sitting here right now. I would either have been in a hospital or maybe on a wheelchair or something. So yeah, so we crashed on our way to Amritsar. So she was in for repairs. पहले तो she was in Ludhiana for a while. I crashed somewhere close to Ludhiana. So the bike was in Ludhiana for a couple of months because I was recovering myself. So I didn't get her back. Eventually she came back, and then she underwent repairs. and I finally she came back like about a couple of weeks, just a week back, and so since then I've been riding her every day. Like my parents don't like it. वो मेरे को ऐसे गंदी सी नजर से देखते हैं whenever I start her up, but now that I've been riding her regularly. But yeah, please always wear a helmet. And please a good helmet also. That's also very important यार. आजकल वो लोग ना they wear those construction वाली hats. वो जो yellow वाली hat नहीं आती construction की, जो construction site से पहनते हैं. People wear those freaking hats and they ride on motorcycles, and that does not serve any purpose. So please get a good helmet, invest in one, and then yeah.
Okay, so I was like following you on Instagram, and many of
Uh-huh.
other pilots' feed also came in my Insta. So I saw that
Okay.
you people have a pretty passionate life. Like the life is so good. You have parties all along, and you have like sports bikes. You are passionate being. You are traveler and photographers. So how would you rate that? I mean, I felt your life very exciting, like not like us, like studying
Oh,
all day round and then qualifying exams and then going into a corporate job. So
see,
what is your say in
I'll be
that?
very, very, very honest.
How does
I'll
it
be very honest here. Don't believe anything you see on social media. Believe me, whatever you see on social media is 90% fake, 10% the truth. If I show you my life is 100% perfect on Instagram, when you see, if you see my Instagram, you'll find that my life is 100% perfect, right? I have a nice bike, I have a nice car, I have a nice house, I earn a lot of money, I fly a lot of airplanes, and my life is absolutely perfect. That is absolutely not the case. Social media, by what you see, is just about 10% of my personal life or anyone else's personal life. So please don't believe that we're all very happy and we're all having fun in our lives. That's not the case. We all have our personal problems, which I or other people also, we don't choose to put it up on social media. That's it. Otherwise, believe me, no one's as happy as they show on Instagram. Like Instagram feed is a proper lie. It's a well constructed overtime lie of how good your life can be. It's not about how good your life is. But
Here
yeah,
is
okay.
something Akash wants to ask. If not a pilot, what else?
If not a pilot, what else? I would have been a footballer. If my parents would have agreed to it. My parents don't really like footballers, but if they'd agreed to it, I would have been playing professional football right now. Because I'll tell you this. So when I was a kid, my parents would ask me to study. IIT की पढ़ाई कर ले, engineering की पढ़ाई कर ले. I had joined that coaching center for my preparation and all. And my parents would continuously be like, पढ़ ले, पढ़ ले, पढ़ ले, पढ़ ले. And I was least interested. मेरे को नहीं करना था. So, I had these dreams of I'll run away from my house and without telling my parents, and I'll go to Manchester United, I'll play for Man U, and I'll become a very big star, I'll be a hero, and eventually I'll come back to India, and when I come out of the airport, there's going to be like hundreds of people just standing around clicking my photo and autograph le rahe hain, and my parents would be standing somewhere in the back, and they'd be like so proud of me, and हमारा बच्चा इतना बड़ा बन गया and all that shit. So yeah, I would have been a footballer if not a pilot.
Thank you so much, sir, for today's session. I guess it has like taken a lot of your time, and we are so
Man, not
fortunate to
at
have you
all.
here.
Not a problem,
Yeah.
yaar. It is a pleasure interacting with all of you.
So, sir, you are a real life manifestation for the cliche phase for those who dream the sky is the limit. So, we are really very touched by
Anytime,
your presentation today.
anytime.
I guess
Thank you so much.
that will
I hope it
inspire
does. And thank you so
thousands
much for
of
having me here.
students who will. Oh.
I
So,
sure
another
hope.
thing to the audience is that the Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah, in the Instagram handle of us, Rotaract Nitr, and Sir's handles also in YouTube and Instagram, The Boeing Boy. Please do follow, subscribe, and like it. Okay, so we are an end to
Like,
the
comment,
show.
share, and
Thank you
subscribe.
all. Thank
I'm
you to
very
the
used. I'm very
audience.
used to saying that.
Hello,
Yeah.
sir. Actually, some of them have asked the manual for the manual, the
Yeah,
description,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and please share
I'll
it.
send it to Ankita. Yeah, I'll send it to Ankita on WhatsApp.
I'll share it. with you, Ritik.
All right.
So also everyone
All
will get
right.
a description of Rotaract and idea page. Thank you, sir.
All right.